I have an embarrassing confession to make. I think this is particularly embarrassing because I'm a pastor. There's a word that I don't think I've been using correctly, like at all. I use it all the time too, and I don't think I even know its definition. It's a theological word too, so that makes it extra embarrassing. It turns out that I have no idea what the word blessed means. Or at least, I think I've been using the word blessed wrong. You see, I look at my life and I do as I think many of us do, and I do as we're told to do, right? I count my blessings. Isn't that what they say? Count your blessings. So I do that. I say, well, my spirit feels full most days as I try to be mindful of God and my life, and I think to myself, I'm blessed. And I'm generally upbeat, and feel positive, so I just count that as another blessing. I get to preach and teach, be a leader in my community. Another blessing. I feel like the world rages around me, and I, because of privilege and probably a couple things, I generally go unaffected by the whole turmoil. That's a blessing. I have my health, blessing, great dog, blessing, loving wife, roof over my head, family's relatively healthy, blessing, blessing, blessing. And yet, none of these blessings show up on Jesus' list of those who are blessed in his sermon that we heard today, right? The famous Sermon on the Mount, the first public proclamation that Jesus gives in the Gospel of Luke. So while I feel spiritually full and happy and secure and satisfied, Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who are meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst. Blessed are those who are merciful. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted. It turns out that Jesus is telling me that I don't know what the word blessed means. We seem to be speaking of two different types of blessings. And I don't know what to do. It would be easy to chalk up my misunderstanding up to what St. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians, which Dick read. Well, of course I don't get this whole blessedness thing. God's wisdom is greater than human wisdom. Jesus and what Jesus says, and more importantly, what Jesus does in his life and on the cross, it's foolishness and a stumbling block to even the most wise, which I am far from, and the greatest debaters, which I am not one of this age or any age. God's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom. God is operating on a whole different level. So perhaps this is all just a grave misunderstanding, right? Perhaps I can chalk up my whole misuse and misunderstanding about this blessedness business to humanness or naivete. Jesus and I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree. I will continue to count my material wealth and well-being as blessings, and Jesus can keep preaching on top of that mountain of his. Or perhaps there's something that I need to learn and to change about the way I perceive what true blessedness is. Perhaps we all could. A quick examination of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount would reveal that Jesus, he's not taking this whole business, this whole issue of blessedness lightly. And we shouldn't either. Scholars of the Bible tell us that there's no coincidence that Jesus travels up on a mountain to deliver his first public sermon. For anyone, especially the Jews who were gathered in that great crowd to hear what this new teacher and prophet had to say, they would have immediately have made a connection between Jesus on the mountain proclaiming new commandments for Christian discipleship and living, and they would see that and they would think of Moses. Moses, who received the Ten Commandments and the word of God's covenant with Israel on a mountain too, on Mount Sinai. In the ancient world, in our Bible times, if you had something important to say, if you had something to say that was from God, you went up on a mountain. What better place to stand than the space where the pinnacles of the earth and the farthest, closest reaches of heaven meet, literally meet, to let people know that what you're saying is above earthly understandings of right and wrong. Jesus seems to know what a struggle his words will be for us. This is why Jesus goes up on the mountain to say it. So let's take Jesus seriously, and let's listen again to Jesus' sermon from on top of the mountain, and let's try to hear the godly wisdom and not our human foolish wisdom. What does blessedness truly mean? Who are those who are blessed? What Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I don't know about you, but I'm still having a hard time. Having a hard time with this blessedness thing. Poor, the mournful, the meek, the hungry, the peacemakers, the persecuted, these don't sound like blessings. When I think of blessings, maybe you're in the same boat, I think of shiny cars and a new house, right? I mean, when I hear people out in the world speak of blessings, they're talking about health and wealth and well-being. That's what people use it for. And I don't think this is necessarily wrong, but I don't think God thinks that these aren't blessings. But I also think we'd be wrong to think that health, wealth, well-being, comfort, and security are the only way that God blesses us or shows us favor. Because if that were the case, then it would appear that God only loves billionaires and health and fitness instructors. We know God is bigger than that. Jesus is so adamant to widen our ideas of blessedness, to change our ideas of blessedness, that he stood up on a mountain as if he were Moses himself, crafting new commandments for our lives. And if we limit what a blessing can be, then we also limit how far God's love reaches to. So how can we as people, whose wisdom is so limited, come to grips with the divine message of blessedness that Jesus is proclaiming? It's one thing to acknowledge that there's more to blessedness than our human understanding of success. It's another to truly see how the poor and the mournful, the meek, the hungry, peacemakers, and the persecuted are truly blessed by God. I have to say, I've struggled with this a lot. Because I don't want to make light of true struggle in this world. I don't want to write off poverty or persecution or inequality as a blessing, and therefore do nothing to help change these realities so that people can live lives of dignity and worth. But I also don't want to say that their blessings will just it'll come in the afterlife, as if this life doesn't matter, as if the incarnation has taught us nothing. I guess you could say I was stuck, right? And then later in the week, as I was pondering all this blessedness stuff, I heard I heard someone read this passage in Luke in a totally different way. Have you ever heard of the Bible translation called The Message? Pastor Eugene Peterson, he made it his life work to translate the Bible into colloquial, modern day, everyday English. And it's not my go-to translation of the Bible for everyday study and prayer. It has its limitations. But, wow. Did his version of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, when I read it, open my heart and knock some sense into my head. Keep the text that we read in church in your mind. In fact, look at it. Look at it in your bulletin. And I'm going to read the translation from the Message. I'll give you a second to find the gospel reading. And I'm going to start with, in our text where it says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Peterson translates that. You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God. All right, the next line. Ours says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." Peterson writes, "You're blessed when you feel like you've lost what is most dear to you." Sorry, I'll read that again. Peterson writes, "You're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one, capital O, most dear to you." And he continues. He says, "You're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. You're blessed when you've worked up a good appetite for God. He's food and drink in the best meal you'll ever eat. You're blessed when you care. At the moment of being careful, F-U-L-L, you find yourselves cared for. You're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and your heart put right. Then you can see God in the outside world. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. You're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution. The persecution drives you even deeper into God's kingdom." Let me read one more of those just again. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are. No more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. Now that sounds like blessedness. Amen.